Should you pull your child out of public school to homeschool them right now? Parents are asking me this right now because they are terrified to send their child to public school during this Trump presidency. With so many weird executive orders, unknowns, MAGA's systematic attack on the public school system, and all of the attached political violence and unrest, the Trump presidency is working overtime right now to make it seem like public school is a very unappealing and unsafe option. Let me be very clear. Fuck these anti-intellectualist fascist fucks. If it works for your family, resist. Keep your child in public school. Of course, if you're having to take your child out of public school for their safety, none of this applies, okay? Do what you need to do for your baby. Please keep in mind this is not professional advice, it's merely professional opinion, but here are a few things to consider before deciding to flee the public school system and homeschool your child. Number one, Trump wants you to pull your kid out of public school and homeschool them. He would much rather a bunch of parents that never voted for him in the first place to flee the public school system, so it's less work for him in the long run. The motivation for that is very clear: to open a door for privatizing the public school system, making money for his billionaires, and forcing women to exit the workforce and go back into the home, among a lot of other things. Which brings me to number two. The Department of Education is actively trying to convince you to homeschool your child on their website, on their Facebook. Why do you think the Department of Education is using government resources to try and convince you to homeschool your child? The only reason they do that is because they actively want children to leave the public school system. Population thins out, and there's less of a reason to federally fund this system. And of course, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but it works in their favor to have a generation of children that don't know how to read, that are uninformed, that haven't ever been taught how to use their critical thinking skills, that have decided ultimately not to attend a university and get a college education because they're ill prepared for it and they don't see the use in it anyway, because the wealthy elites of this country have persuaded their parents into believing that it's not necessary. All the while they continue to send their kids to the best schools and the most elite universities. Number three, there are zero protections federally for homeschool students or private school students to receive special education services or accommodations. Unfortunately, no matter how much you love your child and hope for the best, they are not going to receive the same services that they would in their public school. Same goes for that pricey private school that they're trying to give you a voucher for. They don't even have to let your child in the door. Number four, the survival of the public school system depends on students being in that system. Once the public school student population collapses, so does the system and all the funding that's attached to it. Donald Trump and all his cronies are just waiting for the day when it is no longer financially necessary to fund the public school system because there aren't any children attending public schools anymore. And you know what? Rural schools and rural children are going to be affected the most. That means conservative parents and conservative families are going to be affected the most. That little 1A school in the middle of nowhere that only has 900 kids from K through 12, yeah, y'all are going to get shut down first, and your child is going to be forced to homeschool first, because also why? You don't have any private schools in your area. Number five, your child will ultimately face the same rampant anti-intellectualism and militant Trumpism at their future college campus as they do at their K through 12 school. Unfortunately, if you're pulling your child out of the public school system to shield them from the Trump administration or protect them from anything that's about to happen over the next 4 years, that will only protect them up to a certain point. Number six, the strategy of the Trump administration right now is to make education not worth the trouble. They're trying to convince you that, well, if it's so dangerous and not even financially beneficial for my child to have an education, why even bother? Remember, no matter what they try and tell you about education, the wealthy elites will always continue to send their child to the best and most exclusive private K through 12 schools and the most elite universities. They have the money and the power to make K through 12 schooling safe and accessible for their child. Remember that. They always have used their resources to make that happen for their kids, and they always will continue to use their resources to make their child's school safe, accessible, and effective. And they will never allocate those same resources to the normie kids. Number seven, and I have nothing to add to this very simple statement. It speaks for itself. The wealthy elites in Donald Trump's back pocket will profit from your child being homeschooled or sent to a private school or being enrolled in an online academy. Number 8, no matter how much they try to disenfranchise your child, remember, your child has the right to a free and appropriate public school education. No questions asked. You don't have to homeschool if you don't want to. Dig in and fight for the services your child deserves. Number 9, if you can stomach keeping your child in public school for as long as possible, hang in there and do it. Remember, we have strength in numbers, which proves my point on number 10. This is our public school system and it belongs to our children. It does not belong to Donald fucking Trump. Number 11, for us right now, resistance looks like digging in, taking full advantage of the public school system for as long as it still exists, and demanding that our public schools continue to provide our students with a well-rounded, non-Christian nationalist, inclusive education, regardless of what the Trump administration tries to tell them they can and cannot do. And we should be suing the Trump administration every time they violate our children's rights or try to take away their access to a free and appropriate public school education.